I'm Mark Lewis. I'm the director of the School of Operations Research and Information Engineering. I get the joy of beginning the proceedings here. The congratulations. First thing I'll say is that PhD is the highest degree earned in any university, and the Ivies have a special place amongst the top tier of those universities. So these are the best of the best. I want to say thank you before I go any further to all the staff that helped put this thing together, and to Katja Scheinberg, who's helping lead the effort. So it's a long list of staff. I'm not going to try and reiterate to say all those here, but trust me, they have an infinite amount of bandwidth to be able to get things done, and so it's lucky for us that we have them to help us along. So the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to Katja, is to say that as an undergraduate, I think that the undergraduate degree is basically a degree for the parents. It says how much the parents and the support system has done to help the student along. By contrast, I think the PhD is a celebration of the student's dedication to achieving at the highest levels, at the highest level of university. So each one of these students, or former students now, are now one of the world's experts in their respective fields, in respective areas of our field. And so congratulations to all of them, and we'll go through one by one and do it again. So pass it on to Katja.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, as a parent myself, I'm kind of hoping to celebrate a PhD degree of one of my children at some point. So I don't know. Anyway, so I am not really big on formal speeches, but I do want to give a short speech to all our graduates. So dear new and not so new graduates, we have gathered today to celebrate your achievements that are marked by being awarded the PhD degree, the highest degree you can achieve. It signifies the student's achievement in original research in their chosen discipline. I am sure that each of you have experienced enthusiasm for learning and discovery upon entering the program, and then self-doubt when you felt that your research was going nowhere. And finally, satisfaction and pride at having accomplished your goals and at producing independent and novel research. Look back at your time in the PhD program from the beginning. Did you imagine how it would turn out? Are you ready to do it again? I hope you are, because your PhD degree not only signifies your past research accomplishments, but your ability and intentions to do it again. Whether you plan a career in academia or industry, you will be intellectual leaders, and as such, you will experience both self-doubt and great satisfaction with your work. As faculty, we will be forever proud of you as students and now as our colleagues. The awarding of the PhD degree is traditionally marked by the hooding ceremony. The hooding ceremony of the students graduating this academic year will be officially performed tomorrow. But because of the pandemic, our graduates from last year did not have a chance to attend the hooding ceremony. Whether or not you will be hooded, I believe that there are many small and large events ahead of you, which will make you feel like a proud Cornell PhD graduate that you are. Then, instead of the hooding, we shall mark the awarding of the degree by summarizing research accomplishments for each student presented through slides and their advisor, and then giving them a round of applause. So we will present our students, and then we will have our students, a few of our students say a few words. And the first one out of alphabetical order, because Nathan, her advisor, is in Europe and therefore is very late for him, it will be Angela Zhu, and she will be presented by Nathan Callas.
Thanks. It's my first time. I didn't know what to say, so I'll describe Angela's thesis. I hope it's not too dry, but I mean, it's appropriate to talk about the work she's done. Angela's thesis, it tries to bridge a few gaps between methods and practice in both decision-making from observational data and in algorithmic fairness. In a word, it appears in the title, in a word, it gives us the tools to make these endeavors credible. For decision-making from observational data, it seeks robustness to unobserved confounding rather than assume it away. For algorithmic fairness, it seeks robustness to unidentifiability of fairness metrics. In developing these tools and characterizing them theoretically, this bridges a crucial gap and initiates an important new direction of inquiry.
And congratulations to Angela. hope this will continue working. Great. So the next student to be presented, next graduate to be presented, she is not a student for quite a while now, is Pamela Badian-Pissot, and her advisor will present her, who is Mark Lewis.
Thanks, Katya. So it's my great pleasure to congratulate Pamela Badian-Pissot, graduated in August of 2020. Her thesis title, Control Policies for Queuing Systems with Removable Servers and Energy Considerations, considers basically what we call a server farm. So that is in large-scale computing. One might decide how to increase the number of servers available or decrease the number of servers available in order to maximize throughput and to consider the fact that you're going to have some energy considerations to worry about. So the more servers you turn on, the more energy you consume, and yet the slower you're able to work if you turn them off. So Pamela left Cornell about a year ago and joined, or a little less than a year ago, and joined Procter & Gamble, and apparently bought a dog who she says is taking over her life. And so not true.
The dog's trying to climb into my lap currently, so I think that is accurate.
This I would call a proof that's publishable.
Yes, that's right.
So
Okay.
thank you for giving me the opportunity to congratulate Pamela Badian-Pissot.
Okay, the next graduate is Yudong Chen, and the presenter will be his advisor, David Goldberg.
It's my great pleasure to present my student Yulun Chen. His thesis work on sequential decision-making, especially optimal stopping, provided novel efficient algorithms for several fundamental high-dimensional problems, which were previously thought intractable, and the work is it's really outstanding. Yulun and I have known each other for a long time now, having met what feels like a lifetime ago in Atlanta, eventually moving together to Ithaca, our new home, and having spent many, many hours together discussing research, but also life and philosophy more generally. We're no doubt both very different people now than we were all those years ago when we first met, with Yulun well on his way to starting as an assistant professor at CUHK Shenzhen, and myself, for better or worse, rapidly approaching mid-career. And although we may be living through a time of great uncertainty, I do know for sure, Yulun, that I look forward to seeing what great things you do next. And so congratulations to you and to all our graduates, and best of luck in the next step of all your journeys.
Great, congratulations. So the next graduate, or almost graduate, is from the math department, and his advisor is our own Gennady Samorodnitsky.
Well, Zauli did his PhD in math, so that's why some of you maybe have not met him, even though he did spend a lot of time in Rhodes Hall, not all the time in Malot Hall. Zauli has worked in his thesis on extreme values of long-range dependent stochastic processes and random fields. And he's done a very interesting work, which includes interplay between probability, ergodic theory, random fractals, and many other things. Actually, Zauli is probably the most recent person to defend, because he had his big exam only a few days ago, so just in time for this ceremony. And on July 1st, Zauli will start his new job in Ottawa, in the University of Ottawa, as a postdoc. So congratulations, Zauli.
Excellent. Congratulations. Okay, the next graduate, he's been graduated for a while, is Andrew Daw, and he'll be presented by Jamol. And just a little tidbit I learned from Andrew today, that his parents are actually on their way over, but they're calling from the airport. So I'm really, pleased they're able to do that. Okay, Jamol Pender will present.
Sure, so I'm happy to also congratulate Andrew. The first time I met Andrew was in my class in 6500. Shortly thereafter, he sort of asked me to be his thesis advisor. He first wanted to work on something called fake news. And we literally tried for several months and decided to work on club cues instead, and figure out how to do those. So his thesis actually was batches, bursts, and service systems. And a lot of this work sort of grew out of sort of me telling Andrew to go to several places. So I believe one of our first papers grew out of me sending him to Michigan to work with Robert Hampshire for a week. And then I also sent him to Israel to work with Galit Yom Tov at the Technion. And so a lot of this work that's in his thesis really grew out of me sending him somewhere else to go do the work, which was great. He was very much excited to go, and a lot of great work, I think, resulted out of that. He was the first person to start what we call Cornell West at USC. Seems like USC takes a lot of our graduates, and we're very proud. I like to say one other thing is that Andrew and I actually played basketball quite a bit early on before I had my two sons. And Andrew was one of the best teammates you can ask for. He never asked to shoot the ball, which is awesome for me because that's what I enjoy doing the most. But I liken Andrew to give a basketball analogy. He is kind of the person, if you throw up an alley-oop, he can always slam dunk it. Although I'm not sure he can actually dunk, but anything you sort of give Andrew, he does extremely well. And we're delighted to sort of confer his degree today. So in some official virtual manner. So congratulations, Andrew, and wish you all the best going forward.
Okay, Shane says that Jamol forgot to mention that Andrew spent some time in prison during his PhD.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, I think that sums up Andrew pretty well. That he pretty much volunteered in his own time to teach prisoners how to do math, and he was great at it. Only one prisoner gave him a slightly bad review. So, so even the prisoners love Andrew. So.
All right, moving on.
It's my pleasure to certainly present Shuang Tao. About 6 years ago, she sort of asked me to be her advisor. And I think she was the very first student to actually approach me about working with me. And she did a thesis entitled Limit Theorems in Queuing Networks with Applications to Shared Mobility in Healthcare. And she worked on several different projects with me. One, we started out working on bike sharing and showing kind of empirical process limits for bike sharing networks, thereby sort of reducing the dimensionality of the bike sharing networks. And then we moved on to studying kind of similar limit theorems for electric kind of bike sharing systems. And finally, we worked on kind of a healthcare application where we were modeling kind of how to choose your provider using some join the shortest queuing kind of techniques. It was a great pleasure to work with Shuang. Always impressed by our meetings. One of the things that impressed me the most was we went to an Informs conference And Shuang is definitely on the shy side. I'm probably somewhat of the opposite, but I just remember that every time we would go to Informs, and we went together maybe 3 or 4 times, she would give the most amazing talks, and people would come up to me and say, "Who's that?" And is she on the job market? And fortunately, she decided to become rich and work at Uber as a data scientist, and so that is where she is now. So congratulations, Shuang, and we are very proud of you.
So the next person is actually from CAM department, well, CAM field, and that's Mateo Diaz. But again, many of you had seen them around the department, and he will be presented by his advisor, Damek.
Hi, so yeah, Mateo is now just graduating after doing an amazing thesis, which is not yet done, but will be done in the next month, on non-convex optimization, statistics, and machine learning, sort of all mixed up together. I credit Mateo with getting me interested in this sort of research field and helping me work towards getting a lot of good results. And he's on sort of the 2 papers that I consider to be my 2 best papers in that topic. And so Mateo and I have worked together, almost daily for about 5 years. I feel like I've talked to him maybe at least 3 or 4 times a day since then. So he's become a great friend and a good colleague. And whenever I want to learn anything, I ask Mateo to teach me. And that's how essentially I make any progress in my life. So I'm very happy to see that Mateo afterwards for graduation will go on to be a postdoc at Caltech for a couple of years with Joel Trop and Venkat Chandrasekaran. And after that, he will join Johns Hopkins as an assistant professor in applied math and stats. And I'm sure he's going to do very well there. So anyway, congratulations, Mateo. It's been a lot of fun working with you over the past couple of years.
Congratulations. The next new graduate is Yudong Ding. And I just want to say that on the next slide, there's some text from him, which is really hilarious, very humorous. And you can read it while Yudong is presenting him. I will switch to the slide in a minute. And his advisor is Yudong Chen.
So it's my great pleasure to present Li Jin, who I co-advise with Professor Madeleine Udell. Li Jin will defend his thesis next month, and I'm sure he will pass the exam with flying colors. And he is going to take a postdoc position in the University of Washington and the University of Wisconsin. And I have no doubt that he will have a stellar academic career. And Li Jin works on the intersection of optimization and machine learning, and he done work on a large range of problems. And I have to admit that the kind of problems he worked with me is only a very small subset of the problem he worked on. And even for those problems, he, in many aspects, is more of an expert than I do. I often ask him for advice and for his opinions. And the last sentence on this slide is simply not true. The Li Jin sometimes want to speak Cantonese. The problem is not that I don't understand his Cantonese. The problem is that I don't realize he is speaking Cantonese. I think he is just making some weird noise that I don't know.
So I think you presented the situation in a good light.
Yeah, and there is one thing I always want to do with Li Jin is to play a proper ping pong match with him, which I finally get to do. Congratulations, Li Jin.
Congratulations. All right, one more of our newest graduates is Ben Grimmer, and he has he's co-advised by James Renegar and Damek Davis, and I suppose it will be Damek presenting him, but maybe both, I'm not sure.
All right, so Ben has been working with myself and Jim Renegar for about 5 years now, and he's the first official PhD student of mine to graduate, so I'm very excited about that. But it's not really true that Jim and I have been advising him. He's essentially been his own advisor over the past 5 years, and it's kind of just a running joke, but it's actually very true. He's had a very impressive thesis looking into sort of a classical topic called first order methods and optimization, where it's very hard to make new results because the field has been active for so long. But somehow Ben started doing that in his first year of his PhD. And in that time, authored 11 preprints and has now so far 4 published in top journals, and did a very nice internship at Google Research and spent a semester with me and Jim at Simons University, where Ben and I got to know each other pretty well as we ate, I think we ate lunch together almost every day while we were there together. And Ben next is going to be joining Johns Hopkins Applied Math and Statistics. This is not a typo. Both Ben and Matteo are going to the same department, working on different topics, but I'm very happy that they'll both be there. And I'm sure that Ben is going to continue being a very successful and productive researcher at his time there. And I wish him all the best. Congrats, Ben.
All right, there are a couple of students that never responded whether they're coming or not. And just in case they, decided to join, is Wei Long Gu here? I guess not, we can still mention him. So his advisor, Andrea, is also not here because she's in Europe and she's also expecting a baby any day now. So she begged to be allowed not to participate in this. But Wei Long, my understanding, is also very hard at work in China at this point, which is probably not a surprise given that his thesis is an advanced quantitative investments with machine learning and financial network. Okay, we'll move on. Next one is Sam Gutekunst. I'm not sure I've ever pronounced it correctly, and it will be presented by David Williamson, his advisor.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Sam Gutekunst, who graduated last May, who's able to join us for this ceremony as well. Sam worked on a notoriously difficult problem called the traveling salesman problem, that's abbreviated TSP in his title. A typical way of solving this problem is to compute lower bounds called relaxations. A typical bound here uses a technique called linear programming. But in the literature, there's various techniques based on more sophisticated bounds called semi-definite programming that have been proposed. What Sam did is that he looked at these bounds to see how good they were. There was some promise that they could be better than the linear programming bounds. But what Sam discovered is that all the semi-definite programming bounds that have been proposed in the literature are, at least in the worst case, as bad as they could possibly be. They can be very, very far away from the cost of an optimal solution. Sam was a terrific student, is a terrific teacher, and is now the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Professor of Data Science at Bucknell University. Congratulations, Sam.
All right, next one is another graduate from Yudong Chen as an advisor, Wei Qian, and she has graduated last August. Yudong, please.
Yeah, it is my great pleasure again to present another student of mine, Wei Qian, who graduated last year. So Wei Qian's work lies on understanding mixture problems from the perspective of non-convex optimization. And she has done some really interesting work in this area that I'm still very excited about and I'm following up on even after she left. And I have always been very impressed by the intellectual firepower that Wei Qian has. It happens multiple times that I give her a problem and then literally overnight, he give me a proof. A great proof, and when I asked her how you found that proof. And she just said, oh, I just messed around a little bit and then I found it. And towards the end of her PhD, he has this really interesting results that I'm still working on. And I really wish I would have another copy of her to continue working with me. But now she's working in Munich on a combination of very interesting empirical and theoretical problems. So congratulations, Wei Chen.
Okay, so the next graduate is Mika Sumida, and her advisor Huseyin Topaloglu will present.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy, so proud that Mika, well, got his degree a year ago, but let's pretend that she got his degree relatively recently. She was a great partner in many ways, both academically and personally. We went through a lot of things together and we shared same fate in numerous occasions. So in our dissertation, without boring you too much, we looked at these dynamic resource allocation problems that end up giving you high dimensional dynamic programs we cannot solve in a tractable fashion. And we were able to get approximation guarantees, proved approximation guarantees for these high dimensional dynamic programs. And all of these problems appear in dynamic pricing, revenue management, generally sharing economy, and things of that sort. And again, as I said, we shared similar fates in numerous occasions. Mika was one of the first PhD students at Cornell Tech, so she was foolish enough to make the move like I did. And also last year, we shared similar fate going through COVID in New York together. So again, I'm so proud of Mika, everything she did and everything that she taught me. She's going to be at USC Business School as faculty next. And it seems like USC is drawing a lot of people from us. So there's going to be one more coming up. So I'm really, really proud of what we accomplished together and what she taught me.
Congratulations. So the next graduate is Sol Toscano Palmerin, and his advisor, Peter Frazier, is going to present him.
Thanks, Katya. Yeah, I'm really glad to finally get a chance to officially recognize Saul. He's been such a great student and a great friend, and so it's wonderful to be able to have this opportunity. So Saul's thesis opened the door to a new area that he calls gray box Bayesian optimization. So let me just tell you what that is. In many optimization problems, the objective function, the thing that you're trying to improve, has a formula that you can write down explicitly on a piece of paper, and if you plug it into a computer, you can compute it very quickly. But there are many really important problems where evaluating the objective function takes a very long time. Just to give you one example, a problem that Saul worked on is designing the aircraft, designing the wing of an aircraft, where you might take a supercomputer and use that supercomputer to simulate how air flows over the wing and how that affects the fuel that the plane might need to fly. And the supercomputer might need hours or might even need days in order to do that computation. So Saul's thesis is about methods for solving these problems, methods that we call Bayesian optimization methods that use machine learning in order to quickly predict what the objective function is going to be at an unmeasured potential solution. And historically, these methods, they treat the objective function as a black box, i.e. something that you can't see inside, something that you can only understand by looking at what it outputs for a given input. So the key idea in Saul's thesis is that we don't need to treat these things as a black box. They're hard to understand, they're complex, but we can look inside them in a variety of ways and use additional information that we get from doing that in order to improve the efficiency of these kinds of optimization methods. And the performance improvements that he gets by doing this are really amazing. And in the time since he graduated, which hasn't really been that long in real life, but but is a fairly short time in academic, on the sort of academic time scale. There have been quite a few other people who have picked up the work that he did and used it to push in new directions. So I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Saul. Yeah, he was really wonderful, a great student and a great friend, and congratulations.
Okay, congratulations, Saul. And the next student, next graduate, advisor is not here because Pierre is also in Europe, and I did not hear actually confirmation, but I just want to see if Jiang Wang is here. Okay, if not, we wish him the best, and I'm sure he's doing really well. And we're gonna move to the next graduate, who is Lifan Wu. And her advisor, Gennady, will present her.
I'm very happy to present Lifan and to congratulate her. Lifan actually a true ORIE, not student, ORIE person, so to speak, because Lifan started her affiliation with ORIE as a main student. So she did her degree in financial engineering, and then she stayed on to do her PhD. And she did her PhD work very well as well. Lifan worked on extremes of random fields, of heavy-tailed random fields, how those extremes cluster, and how this clustering of extremes affects risk, how it affects risk behavior, the analysis of risk. And she did manage to clarify these important issues really well. So when Lifan graduated, she decided to take her risk analysis skills to industry, and she has joined the ORIE as a data scientist. And there, one of her main responsibilities, as far as I know, is exactly risk analysis and modeling. Congratulations, Lifan.
Okay, we have a couple of graduates left. I think this is probably our most senior graduate being honored, and that's Calvin Wiley. And he will be presented by his advisor, Adrian Luce.
Right. So it's a great pleasure to present Calvin. Calvin's thesis, I would say, was centered on a couple of really beautiful papers unified by Newton's method, essentially. So his work relied on a nice blend of smooth and non-smooth geometry, of the kind that sort of comes out of classical active set methods, even like the simplex method, where the idea is the second phase kind of linearizes active optimality conditions. So that first paper abstracted in kind of differential geometric language this idea and extending it to variational inequalities and other generalized equations. And the second focused on a really interesting, fast, convergent Newton type scheme for black box non-smooth optimization, which was an idea I found really original, like strikingly distinct from any other algorithm that I know of out there. So Calvin, we in the Academy miss you. Anytime you'd like to come and slum it with us again, and I hereby pronounce you doctored. So.
Okay, all right, and I think this is our last, but definitely not least, almost graduate again, Matthew Zalisak, and his advisor is Samita, who will present him now.
So it's my great pleasure to present Matthew. His title is on models, algorithms, and implementations for operational optimization of ride pooling, or also commonly known as microtransit services. And true to the title, some of Matthew's work is already being implemented with his help at one of the large automotive / microtransit companies, and it's having a direct practical impact. And in fact, his work is also the basis of 2 microtransit pilot deployments that are happening in Seattle and Minneapolis in this fall. He's worked very closely with the partners in industry and the public sector, and to facilitate these services, and he's learned the hard way about the challenges of doing things in the real world and working with non-technical people in these places. So after graduation, Matthew is most probably going to join an early stage startup and keep working on some topics that are very close to his thesis. I've also really enjoyed getting to know Matthew as a person throughout these years. As many of you know, and as we see from the slides too, he has many interests. So from Aikido to baking to linguistics to, as I just discovered recently, the history of legislation on the US rail system. I'm going to miss all of these random conversations we've had over the years. Congratulations, I'm sure you'll do great.
All right, so now as kind of a wrapping up conversation, we will hear from 3 of our students, or maybe more perhaps, if they want to participate. I guess they will give us their own perspective on their experience as ORIE PhD students.
Great, thank you, Katya. So Sam, Andrew, and I were asked to do something here at the end, and we planned a very elaborate skit to do, but didn't have the details worked out in time. So you'll never see that. Instead, we're just going to share some memories or highlights from our time in ORIE. Partly, I think I was roped into doing this because I spent so much of my time around the department trying to get people to quit working and come play a game or ping pong in the lounge. Really, that's what makes ORIE so special to me. It's filled with lots of brilliant, hardworking people that surprisingly often I could get to drop their work and come do something fun together. So with my moment here, I just had 2 things I wanted to say. So thank you, all the current and graduating PhD students, for putting up with my board game solicitations and making ORIE such a warm place. So thank you all, that's really a special thing. And second, since I was able to grab the microphone here, if anyone wants to play board games later, I can virtually set that up. Just reach out anytime. That's easy to do in the pandemic. But okay, I'll hand it off to Sam.
Hi, everyone. It's always terrifying to speak after Ben, but you never know if he's going to like speak in palindromes or be Markov generated, but that was remarkably tame. To steal a joke from Andrew, I think what we really wanted was for Ben to do a skit for the 3 of us and to be everyone. But other than skits, when we were talking, we all basically thought the same thing, which is that we wanted to thank the ORIE faculty, staff, and other students for making this a home for all of us who are graduating today. And the silly story that I wanted to tell happened at the climbing wall. And this was a moment where Shane was climbing with a bunch of the PhD students, but a whole crew of undergrads who had never met him before just flocked to him. And I think it was because Shane just exuded this teaching, mentoring, supportive vibe that all of these people who had literally never met Shane before came to him to try and get teaching, to try and get climbing advice. And it's silly that took place at the climbing wall, but for me, that was so indicative of what made ORIE home, was that everyone was so invested in our success and just gave off these extreme teaching, mentoring, and supportive vibes that you couldn't help but just be overwhelmed by. So that's what I wanted to say, and I'll pass it off to Andrew to say a little bit more about our collective gratitude.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so by comparison to Ben and Sam here, I guess instead of offering a reflection, I'm offering something a little bit more forward-looking. And I guess, after you get to gain the perspective of a year passing and then getting to do your graduation, particularly in this year that I'm sure everybody can relate to, have feelings of, stress and anxiety, and now hopefully some hope and some optimism. Perhaps you're also reaching a point like I am, and also having some gratitude and realizing just how absurdly much we have to be thankful for. And for me personally, when I stop and I think about that, particularly with this graduation approaching, so much of it is either shaped by, if not originated in, my time at ORIE with all of you. So on behalf of the three of us, and I think easily on behalf of the whole graduating classes, thank you to the faculty, thank you to the staff, and thank you to our fellow students. You've made quite the mark on us.
And I think with that, we should clap again for all the students. And thank everybody for coming, the parents. I do think it's a good thing for